Hey, Dr. Johnson, I'm gonna have to reschedule. Okay, everyone's mic's good?
Yeah.
All right, what's up everyone? My name is Chris. If you're new to the program, this is The Great Divide, where we speak on some of the largest topics in all of human history. Today we have with us Patricia Knight, a recent college graduate and a strong activist with a passion for equality and the better understanding of people from all walks of life. She's currently working on her first novel, a nonfiction piece that focuses on African American history that's yet to be titled. We also have Tyler Petty, who's joining us remotely from Los Angeles, a former white supremacist who has since taken a step back from his former views and decided to reevaluate his beliefs. Now, I invited my guests here for one common goal, which was to find as much common ground as possible between two different races, one black, the other white. Patricia, Tyler, thank you for joining us today, and we're glad to have you on the program.
Absolutely. It's really, really good to be here.
No problem.
So let's just jump right into it. So you, like many others, feel the Emancipation Proclamation was the sort of tipping point in this country for African Americans. Like, here's the most powerful man in the United States giving the green light to eradicate the most oppressive system this country's ever known.
Right. Right. Exactly. So don't get me wrong. I think the fact that the president said everyone was free is significant, right? But it's kind of like eating the cherry on top of a cake first before the cake is even done. So flash back to after the Civil War, a country that was not united begins to amend, and we see a lot of race mingling, and albeit the relationship was still tenuous, we see a spark of hope, basically. And what we notice is that this spark shines for decades after slavery is abolished. But one of the biggest things that I think people forget is that Black people, they're not foolish enough to think that they're equal to their white counterparts at this point in time. But there's this hope that with enough hard work, they'll be able to gain some respect. But what we see over time is actually that hope begins to fade, that optimism, it begins to fade, and it's replaced with resentment and this longing to be as far removed from their former oppressors as possible. And since this can't be done physically, we see it done in other ways, for example, through unconventional behavior and also in some of the names that are given to Black children.
Right. So it's not even like being in a room and drawing a line and keeping to one side while telling the other person to stay on their side. It's more like having a label maker and putting your name on everything you could think of the other person hasn't already claimed. And if the other person did touch something already, then you don't want to have anything to do with it.
Right. No, right. You're exactly right. I think the worst part about it is that we see that there's a lot of people who don't have a problem with using race as a pejorative, and we see Black men and women who are shamed as whites because of the way they act and the way they talk, and because they value higher education or because of the way they articulate, and sometimes because they're like a few shades lighter, for example. And honestly, this is all just a form of a coping mechanism that was established over several generations. And what we do see through history is that Black people, they're trying to act like and assimilate to their white counterparts to be accepted, basically, after slavery. And we also observe that they're trying to make the most of their lives by becoming these respectable and upstanding citizens, almost feeling like they have to do more and be more extraordinary in order to gain just like a little ounce of respect. And through all that, we also know the challenges that they faced.
So basically, it's like African Americans were painted into a corner without a way to move forward, but also had no desire to go backwards. So how does this have a cultural effect in our country for men and women of color?
Well, honestly, when you have a race for several decades, several centuries, sorry, actually, telling you that you're inferior, that you're less than, that you're not human, that can do something to your state of mind, inherently. And there's no doubt that it left a hard mark on the soul of this community. But what it didn't do is cause the collapse of this community. And I think that's something that people need to know, is that no matter what, this community cannot be broken. However, the human mind was not built or meant to withstand such constant assault. And so we see that Black people are constantly in this state of trying to prove themselves. And so nowadays we see Black people basically contributing to the nation's economy by starting businesses and by coming up with new ideas, but sometimes it doesn't matter because it's overshadowed by their white counterparts.
And it's frustrating, really, how many names will just be forgotten by history from the African American community, but their accomplishments won't be completely lost because they've helped pave the way for countless others. But is that good enough? I mean, what happens when you apply steady negative pressure to a group for such a long period of time?
Well, what happens is that we have this internal dialogue, and we have this internal dialogue because it just doesn't make sense. We have Black people, and they're trying to achieve and they're trying to create, and they might do something significant, but it almost doesn't matter, or it's ignored because it's like, okay, you did something great, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, you're Black, right? And so if you try to chase your white counterparts to get noticed, then you're like a sellout, or then you're trying to appeal to someone who's not worthy. But if you try to pave your own way, then it's like they're following you, trying to make sure you don't get as far as you can. They're trying to make sure you don't advance as much as you're supposed to. And so it makes it hard because we see this happening within our community, and it's almost like there's nothing we can do. We hold these hardships that we go through in the beginning in order to achieve all these things, in order to chase these things, almost like a badge of honor,
And what exactly do you mean by that?
Bad is good, up is down, and we sift through our own self-pride and our own, honestly, self-respect in order to exist in this country that doesn't want us, but we have to simply survive. On one end, we have white people looking at us, and if we act out and contribute to this narrative of, Black people are aggressive, we're thugs, we're gangsters, they're looking at us like, oh, we told you guys, like, look at them, look how they're acting. But then we basically are leading our children and families down this path that we scorched in order to not be followed or bothered by our oppressors. But now, they're going down the same path. And what we saw after slavery is that many Black people, had hope for a better tomorrow, for a better life, in order to give that to their family and their children. And that's not even the only driving force that we had in order to be better. I think the main driving force we had was to prove everyone wrong. So to prove the naysayers, the racists, the people who just doubted us and didn't believe in us or didn't think we were capable enough, we just wanted to prove them wrong. And I believe that that's what we see now, and that's what we're trying to prove now with everything that Black people are doing, is that had the playing field been level and equal, we were more than capable of achieving extraordinary things for this country.
Hey, Dr. Johnson, I'm gonna have to reschedule.
Chris, this is your third time skipping your sessions for this month. Is everything okay?
Yeah, no, everything's fine. Just some work stuff, you know, nothing to be worried about.
Chris, if I didn't know any better, I would say that you're trying to avoid me.
And if you weren't a psychiatrist, I'd be calling you crazy.
Chris?
I know, the C word, I'm sorry. Hey, look, I actually have to get going, but I'll reschedule, I promise.
Whatever you say.